You are listening to the Garlic Fries and Baseball Guys podcast. Sam Lubman and Joe Shasky, we coming at you every week with the best Giants content out there. Make sure you're listening, reviewing, liking, subscribing, sharing. Tell all your friends because we're always going to be coming at you with Giant stuff every week until the end of the season and then a little bit in the off season. We do have some kind of unfortunate news that I think we need to address now on this podcast that broke literally minutes before we hopped on and started recording. And that was former Giants manager Roger Craig at the age of 93 years old, unfortunately passed away. The Giants announced today. Craig, the Humm baby manager, he was the manager of the 89 Giants in that World Series. And he was more, Roger Craig was more before my time. I think actually his last year, his tenure ended months before I was born. Shasky, though, that was your childhood manager, though. So I want to kind of turn this over to you here. Roger Craig, what kind of emotions does that evoke from you?
You know, when I was a young kid, I mean, I was like 6, 7, 8 years old. That was my guy. And that was when I first started collecting cards and going to games with my dad, specifically Wednesday afternoon games, sitting in the family pavilion. And you know, I'll never forget, I started collecting Mother's Day cards. I went on a Mother's Day and I got the Mother's Day cards. I have the booklet right here and I tweeted it out for everybody. And Roger Craig was that guy. And they had the manager's photo and it was all the different coaches. All 6 of them would sit in a little card and they'd stand there on Candlesticks Field. And I had the whole entire set of the entire team. And there was Roger Craig. And the games weren't televised as much as they were now. And so I literally stared at him in that card all day long. And he would wear like a satin plasticky windbreaker coat underneath the jersey, sometimes over the jersey. And he was Humm baby. And the Giants attitude, you know, with the black with Will Clark and Robbie Thompson. But for me, he was my guy, Kevin Mitchell. You know, I fell in love with Kevin Mitchell and he fell in love with Humm baby Roger Craig. And so that was my guy. Now, Dusty was probably more influential to me in terms of my baseball acumen and mind because I started to be older, play a lot more. The team is significantly better long term and the games were more televised and so they're easily more consumable. But like I started off with Humm baby Roger Craig. And so I have nothing but warm feelings and he always felt like a grandfather figure to me, like in a familial sense of watching sports. And so this is really sad. I mean, he lived a great long life. He's famous for the splitter. So, you know, guys like John Burkett, guys like Mike Krukow, Don Robinson, Steve Bedrosian, like all these OGs, Jeff Brantley, they all learned the splitter from Roger Craig. And it was kind of like, you know, Gosman talked about it, Kevin Gosman more recently, like, hey, the splitter gave me new life in baseball. And that's what Roger Craig did for a lot of guys. And so it's not just the passing of the human being who I'm sure had an unbelievable touch with all the different guys that he coached. But for me, it's like what he signifies, which is the 80s and then the early 90s as the team was about to leave. And he was the dude who got me kind of stuck in love with baseball from the very, very, very beginning.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, again, you know, Craig predated most of my time, but the impact, I feel like it was very much there. Like his impact was very much felt within the Giants, even after he had left the organization. Obviously, there's the Humm baby moniker, but I remember the Mike Krukow has a term that he likes to use a lot, the term red ass. You know, he talked about, I think it was in the the 30 for 30 that talked about the 89 World Series in the earthquake. You know, that team was full of red asses. And I feel like Roger Craig, he kind of helped set that kind of badass, no nonsense tone that Giants baseball really had for a long time, that it was just an attitude and a culture that, like, you know what, we're here to show up and be gamers. You know, we're here to show up. We're going to play the game hard. We're going to play the game right. I don't care about the money. You know, we're just here to win. And, you know, he really kind of set that attitude. It was a really cool attitude that the Giants had. And furthermore, how his impact was felt for me personally as a kid growing up. I went to all those junior Giants camps.
Oh yeah.
Growing up. Rob Andrews, who played on those 80s teams, he was kind of the guy who led those camps. But
liaison.
The big thing was every day there was the Humm baby of the day, the big Humm baby award. You know, everyone was, you know, jazzed if you got the Humm baby award, and that all came from Roger Craig. You know, it just this attitude of just. It was almost like a love of the game attitude, you know, like it's not about
he was
money,
a lifer, Sam.
fame.
He was a lifer. And
really
the same way, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I get the same qualities, not all of them, but a lot of the same qualities of Bruce Bochy from Roger Craig.
Yeah, just that old fashioned, like, you know what, it's forget all the nonsense, forget all the pizzazz, the glitz. We're here to play ball and we're here to win. And that's when I think of Roger Craig, like that's the attitude I feel like he instilled in this organization. And you still see it here today throughout the ballpark, throughout this fan base. And that's a true legacy there. When the culture you set 30 years ago is still permeating throughout the organization.
Great call. Great call. Rest in peace. Rest in peace to Roger Craig. And thank you for being one of the many people that helped me fall in love with Giants baseball.
Exactly. So turning our attention now back to this year's team, Shasky, I've always felt when it comes to baseball season, after the first 2 months, that's where really everything gets settled in. You know, like sometimes in April, you'll see a team get off to a hot start, like the Pirates, and you're like, oh, wow, the Pirates might be good this year. And then they turn back into the Pirates. Or, you know, there's always that, 1 week stretch in April where the Rockies are in first place and you think, oh, maybe this is the year they figure it out. Or there's a team that gets off to a slow start and then they kind of bounce back. Once June starts, though, I feel like what the standings look like, that's probably, barring a few changes here or there, what the standings are going to look like the rest of the year. So what we've seen from the Giants this year, near kind of a 500 team, a bit of a streaky team, but kind of a broad question here, but we're going into game 60. What do we feel like we know about the Giants for sure right now?
They're fun. And I didn't think they were going to be fun this year. Like, I'm having a lot of fun. Camilo Duvall looked unstoppable the other day in the ninth inning. He had a 4-0 lead, and I get it. He went up against Rushman, however you pronounce it. And Rushman is like choking up, fighting for his life just to foul a ball off. And I'm saying to myself, wow, Camilo Duvall has figured out command. I mean, he was the NL pitcher of the month in May. And he's fun. He's fun. And then Logan Webb. He's fun. I look at Casey Schmidt. He's fun. I'm watching a young kid in Patrick Bailey who I feel like he's like surprising me every single day. He's doing a little thing here and there that I didn't think he had in the bag this early, and he's a lot of fun. JD Davis is a lot of fun. When Estrada comes back, he'll be a lot of fun. I'm having fun with the 2023 Giants, and I thought it was going to be grinding my teeth all year.
I think that might be actually a really good takeaway, actually. This is a fun team. It's like we were saying, like it makes it easier to shrug off the bad days because you're still having so much fun now. Whereas last year, it's a grind with all these guys who we're not going to be seeing around. And now when it's guys who you know are going to be around a lot longer, it's easier to get settled in and get kind of accustomed to this team. Now, my kind of looking at it is coming into this season, pitching was supposed to be the strength of the team. It was a little bit wobbly in April, but I do feel like now, the pitching is once again, I think, the strength of this team right now. They have a pretty solid 1-2-3 right now between Webb, Cobb, and Anthony DeSclafani, who, again, kind of a rough day for him against the Orioles. It's been kind of a rough last few weeks for him. So maybe it's kind of more of a 1-2 punch than it is a 1-2-3. Logan Webb, though, the way he's turned his season around after April, Shasky, he is quietly snuck in to the elite tier of the National League. Here are kind of his rankings within the National League right now. He's 7th in ERA with a 2.85 ERA, 6th in strikeouts with 82, 3rd in WHIP with a 104, 12th in batting average against with a 230. That's 196 since the start of May, which is one of the best in baseball. Which kind of surprised me, though, he's first in innings pitched in the National League with 79 right now. Which I never really thought of Logan Webb as like he can eat up innings, but not at a league leading rate. I mean, Shasky, the All-Star ballot was just announced this last week. Obviously, it's different for pitchers. I think All-Star game consideration is very much on the table for Logan Webb. He could be sneaking into some awards votings with the way he's been pitching right now. Again, 4 months left to go. Knock on wood that still holds.
Do you think
Logan Webb? Yeah.
Let me ask you, because I was very surprised when you read that off. Do you think the fact that he's not a high velo max effort type of a pitcher is in part why he can go longer in games than others and be more durable?
Well, I do think, because when obviously he is a ground ball pitcher first, which actually I think what's very surprising is the fact that he's 6th in strikeouts. Like he's never really been a super strikeout pitcher. I mean, we're used to, years ago, we were remembering, Tim Lincecum, who, rack up, 10 strikeouts there or nothing. There are nights where, Madison Bumgarner's striking guys so often that you feel bad for the other team. Like you have no hope there. But when you're a strikeout pitcher, obviously you're throwing more pitches. When you're throwing more pitches, it's obviously harder to go deeper into games. The fact that Logan Webb, I think, is so good at inducing those ground balls, he can get those quick innings, and that allows him to really kind of chew up innings a lot faster. It's fun to watch guys strike out, but Logan Webb, he's kind of got a very good balance of he's still that dominant ground ball pitcher that has that got him the contract that he has this year. Throwing in the strikeouts though, on top of that, you're really kind of seeing an evolution almost in a sense in Logan Webb's game where he can be that strikeout guy, even if he might not be a strikeout dominant guy.
You know what's the best part is that he struggled early on, and you heard, I don't know, the contract. Haven't heard anything since.
No. And
I want to go to war with someone like Logan Webb for the rest of his Giants career. I mean, he's the kind of guy who's going to give you everything he's got. I love him. I just, people can try to poke holes in his game and show me the flaw. Show me the flaw right now in this guy's game.
Right now. No, it's really just not there. He's been feeling all of his pitches right now. He's keeping the ball in the ballpark.
Exactly.
I do think that it was a rough April for this team. They had a lot of travel.
But he lost a lot of close games.
Yeah, and so I think, and Gabe Kapler kind of talked about this before the game today, just kind of like the streakiness of this team. I do think that, when you have that kind of road trips that they had early on in April, that kind of set them back behind the 8 ball a little bit. You're really starting to see this team, though, like they're finally starting to come together. And I think, it's been 2 months. I think we got an idea of what this team's capable of. And now in these next few weeks, we're going to really kind of see, we're going to see this team at full strength probably in this next week. And we're going to really get a good sense. We know what these guys can do, but now we're going to see what they can do together. I think you're going to have, much more dynamic lineups now. Like, for instance, you got a very good infield of J.D. Davis, Casey Schmidt, Tyro Estrada, and Lamont Wade Jr. That is a very good, not just Crawford. That's a very good, I'll get to him in a second. That is a very good, not just offensive infield. That's a very good defensive infield too.
Agreed.
J.D. Davis, watching him just from when he goes to warmups and then he's making the same plays during the game that he's making in warmups. You're just amazed at just the steps he's taken forward as a defensive third baseman.
How about his BP? His BP is pretty incredible. Isn't it?
I mean, they're both incredibly fun to watch, his BP and his defense. But Friday night, he's just hitting tanks over the center field wall.
He's a lot of fun.
I mean, Shasky, JD Davis, let's get a little JD Davis love here. I mean, you look around the other third baseman in the National League, Max Muncy is kind of the standard right now. I hate saying that because I despise Max Muncy, but JD Davis, he's going to start getting some all-star consideration at the hot corner. I mean, because it's Muncy, Arenado, Austin Riley might get some looks, but Davis, he's up there defensively and offensively with the best of them. And I think that's one thing we know for sure. Giants, they're kind of set at the hot corner there. For Brandon Crawford, he's probably going to be a bench guy, I think, for the time being right now because, the bat isn't what it used to be. The glove isn't what it used to be. And he's not one of the 4 best options to put on defense in the infield right now. And I think that's just kind of a fact that we know right now. One last thing before we kind of get into, because we have our interview with Casey Schmidt coming up next. The Giants bullpen. Remember a couple weeks ago, Shasky, we tried to do a power ranking of the Giants bullpen, and you were kind of unsure kind of who to rank where. Shasky, in the month of May, here are some of their numbers. A 2.45 ERA, second only behind the Padres. This is since May 1st. They have a 48% ground ball rate, second in baseball behind the Marlins. They're stranding just under 79% of their runners, second behind the Padres. They have the second best walks per 9 innings, again, behind the Padres. Padres got a pretty good bullpen. 114 innings pitched, 5th most since May 1st. Well, that might seem like a lot. The Dodgers, though, they're 3rd at 119 innings out of their bullpen. And my theory is if you're putting up numbers that are similar to what the Dodgers are doing, you're probably okay because the Dodgers usually put up good numbers. So I'll roll with that. Shasky, the Giants bullpen is pretty freaking good right now. And I think this is, I know, let me knock on some more wood here. But
it starts with Camilo Duvall for me. I mean, seeing Camilo Duvall just shut down the 9th inning, I think that has taken so much pressure off of everyone else. And he can also get a 4-out save, right? That's something that I've seen him do a couple of times coming in the 8th inning. I think he's the start. And then both Rogers brothers are pitching better. I think that's a big boon too. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, totally. I mean, Tyler Rogers, you know me, I've always been a big fan of Tyler Rogers. The way he's able to come in, just get that ground ball right away. He's dialed in. Taylor Rogers, he seems to have figured out what was kind of ailing him early on in the season, throwing the glove away, ended up being the right move. Who would have thought we'd be saying that? Who really impressed me out of the bullpen lately, though, is Ryan Walker. Came up a couple weeks
out of nowhere.
He's a quiet guy. He doesn't say much. But he's got a very funky delivery. The way he turns it, his back's turned to the batter when he starts. He's got a very weird arm angle. He's he's very hard for hitters to hit off of. And he's become quietly a huge asset in this bullpen. And as you got this, bullpen crunch they're about to kind of have in the next couple weeks here, Walker, he has to stay in the bullpen. bullpen. Like
Well,
he is
Sam,
absolutely found a home here.
I think that their multiplicity is their biggest strength right now, meaning the diversity of arms and the arm angles that they throw at you, and then the different pitch types and pitch speeds. Like that's one thing I got to give Farhan a lot of credit. He has visualized and reimagined this bullpen a couple of times now in the 4 or 5 years that he's been running things, and he finds arms. I got to give it to him. He's found some funky arms, guys that I didn't think highly of when I first saw them, and then they start to produce. And then they come around, and then you're like, you know what? Not bad.
It's you're true. I mean, when you have so many different angles and so many different arm slots you're gonna be throwing at hitters, it does. I mean, the Giants are all about playing matchups, but they're all about creating as many mismatches and as many headaches for the other team as possible. And yeah, with this bullpen, they have like no two guys here throw the same way. And that's going to be incredibly difficult if you're the other team trying to get locked in on these guys, because it's a different look every inning. And so that's going to benefit the Giants. So